One day, Carlos arrived in New York City for the very first time. He had dreamed about this trip for years, and now it was finally real. As he walked through the busy airport, he felt both excited and nervous. The signs were all in English, people were moving quickly, and announcements echoed through the speakers. Carlos took a deep breath and reminded himself, "This is my chance to practice English." He needed to find a taxi to reach his hotel. He walked around looking for the exit until he finally saw a long line of yellow taxis waiting outside. He stepped into the line, and soon it was his turn. A driver opened the door and asked, "Where to, sir?" Carlos smiled nervously and answered, "Times Square, please." The driver nodded and said, "Sure, no problem." As the taxi drove through the streets, Carlos looked out the window in amazement. The buildings were tall, the streets were full of lights, and the city was alive with energy. He had seen New York in movies, but now he was here, experiencing it for himself. After a short ride, the taxi stopped near Times Square. Carlos paid the driver, thanked him, and got out. The moment he stepped onto the street, he felt overwhelmed. There were bright billboards, street performers, and hundreds of people walking in every direction. Carlos looked around and suddenly realized he had a problem. He didn't know the exact address of his hotel. He had written it down on a small piece of paper, but when he checked his pockets, the paper was gone. He froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. Carlos started walking, hoping to recognize something, but everything looked new and confusing. The noise of the traffic, the flashing lights, the crowd of tourists, it all made him feel lost. Finally, he decided to ask for help. He saw a woman standing near a bookstore and walked up to her. "Excuse me," he said nervously. "I'm lost. Can you help me?" The woman turned and smiled kindly. "Of course," she said. "What are you looking for?" Carlos answered, "My hotel. It's called the Grand Hotel." The woman thought for a moment and said, "Oh, I know where that is. It's not far from here. Come with me. I'll show you." Carlos was relieved. As they started walking together, the woman introduced herself. "My name is Sarah," she said. Carlos smiled. "I'm Carlos. Nice to meet you." Sarah asked, "Where are you from?" Carlos replied, "I'm from Mexico." She nodded and said, "Welcome to New York. Do you like it so far?" Carlos looked around at the tall buildings and the busy streets. "Yes," he said. "It's amazing." As they walked, Sarah and Carlos continued to talk. She told him about her favorite places in the city, the parks, the museums, the small cafes hidden on quiet streets. Carlos listened carefully, practicing his English with every answer. He was nervous at first, but Sarah was patient and friendly, and little by little, he felt more confident. After about 15 minutes, they reached the entrance of the Grand Hotel. Carlos recognized the building immediately and felt a huge sense of relief. "Here it is," Sarah said with a smile. "You made it." Carlos turned to her and said, "Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it." Sarah replied, "You're welcome. Enjoy your time in New York." They shook hands, and Carlos went inside the hotel. That night, as Carlos lay in bed, he thought about everything that had happened. He had arrived in a new city, spoken English with strangers, and even made a new friend. He realized that even though it was difficult at times, every challenge was an opportunity to learn. He promised himself that during his trip, he would practice English every single day, no matter what. And so, Carlos's adventure in New York had just begun.